Happy Friday, Brian Manning here with the weekly update. Let's get right to it. Monday this week, relatively quiet news day. Not a lot to talk about there. Tuesday this week, we got existing home sales. This is for the month of June. On a month-over-month basis, existing home sales were down 5.4%. Also, inventory was up 3.1% on a month-over-month basis. And on a year-over-year basis, inventory is up 23%. I just want to look at a chart real quick for inventory. So this is inventory across the country. It shows that where we're at right now. This is our COVID levels that we're at all-time lows. But if you look at our inventory and you look at us compared to pre-COVID levels, we are significantly lower than where we ever were in pre-COVID levels of inventory. So inventory is still at an all-time low. I truly think you're going to see mortgage rates move lower here in the near future. You're going to have inventory still at an all-time low. That's definitely going to create a spark in the the housing market. Then we look at Wednesday this week. So Wednesday, there's a lot of talk about the BLS and the employment report. So BLS does a lot of modeling. They do what's called the birth-death ratio. So they look at companies that were opened based on a company that was open in the industry that it's in, how many jobs would they create or how many new hires would they bring on. Then they look at companies that closed based on a company that closed or a company that died, how many people would get laid off. So there's a lot of modeling there. The challenge is when the employment report comes out, as one will next Friday, the number that is released moves the markets. Well, if we look at the employment report, Q4 of last year was overstated numbers by 261,000 jobs. Now, the challenge is Q4 of last year, the employment reports that came out were very, very rosy. And when the employment reports were very rosy, it made everyone think that the Federal Reserve would not cut rates anytime soon. Now you go back and you look at it and say, well, these numbers were overstated by 261,000. The challenge is mortgage rates rose based on the data that came out, but the reports, the market, don't look back at Q4 and say, oh, they were wrong by 261,000, mortgage rates would move lower, because mortgage rates are reacting based on the data that comes out. So with all this said, it really looks like, unfortunately, employment in the U.S. economy is not as strong as you would think. I think the Federal Reserve is kind of behind the curve on cutting rates. I think you're going to start seeing some rate cuts starting in September, and I don't think employment is as strong as everyone would say. We'll have to wait and see. Thursday this week, relatively quiet. Today we got PCE. That's the personal consumption expenditure. This is the Federal Reserve's favorite gauge of inflation. The headline number moved down 0.1%. Although I would say this is a good report, it wasn't great. A lot of us were hoping to see a little bit more easing in inflation there, but we're still seeing inflation moving in the right direction because the Federal Reserve's focus for inflation is a 2% number. I do not think we're going to see a rate cut coming up here in July. The Fed meeting is next week, but most analysts would say that you're likely going to see a cut starting in September. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm around all weekend. If you have any questions, let me know. Realtors, we have a new class out. It's Winning the Buyer Presentation Part 2. We did our first one yesterday. We got really good feedback on it. We have 3 coming up between Boulder, Fort Collins, and Denver. If you want to win your buyer presentation and work on your presentation skills, come on out. We'd love to have you there. We'll have info in the email here. Happy Friday. Hope you have a great day.